Since I was last here, the seventh harbinger has fallen. The Erez tree has fallen. The seventh harbinger has been destroyed. The sign of national judgment, the destruction of the Erez tree, which it's even hinted in the harbinger that it's going to happen. It happened since it happened in the spring, and it happened on a very particular. They took it down because there was no way this thing, no matter what they did, nothing happened. They took down the tree. If you go there, you will not find it. They took it down. They took it down on the day where that night was a Hebrew holy day, was Passover.
Oh.
The Erez tree has fallen, which is even a deeper sign than the striking of the sycamore, because this means strength. If this goes, you're closer to judgment. So here it was taken on, and let me give you more on that. They took it down that day, and the following day, they destroyed it. I mean, they wiped it out. They destroyed it. They ground it. They destroyed it. So they took it down. That day that they destroyed it was Passover. And that night was the first blood moon.
Oh, my land.
The harbinger fell the day before the blood moon and was destroyed the day of the blood moon.
And I am on WND News, and you can see here the headline, 3,000-year-old Bible mystery anticipates stock collapse. Warning comes as major investors dump holdings. And this is something that everyone should be watching and everyone should be interested in for obvious reasons. It says, New York, is it possible that a 3,000-year-old text warns of a major crash of the U.S. stock market next month? Well, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, and many of you know him, he is the author of the New York Times bestselling book, The Harbinger, which I read when it came out. I read it in one day because it was a real page turner. Has written a sequel, The Mystery of the Shemitah, in which he documents a historical cycle he believes portends a painful stock market collapse that would mark the beginning of a major economic decline. The Shemitah, or Sabbath year, is the seventh year of the 7-year agricultural cycle mandated by the Torah for the land of Israel. Kahn's warning comes as savvy investors such as Warren Buffett dump stocks of companies such as, and these are huge companies, by the way, mainly everything we buy comes from these companies. Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, and Kraft Foods, complaining of disappointing performance. Meanwhile, fellow billionaire John Paulson, who made his fortune betting on the subprime market meltdown, is dumping stocks from his hedge fund, Paulson & Company. He has shedded 14 million shares of J.P. Morgan Chase and dumped his entire stock investment in discount retailer Family Dollar and consumer goods maker Sara Lee. The widely read financial blog ZeroHedge.com adds to the list of billionaire investors preparing for a market crash, including, and you can see here some of the names, Sam Zell, chairman of Equity Group Investment, George Soros, and more. Kahn writes of market collapses as the ancient mystery moves across the globe, from the New York Stock Exchange to major exchanges worldwide, in one vast colossal Shemitah, nullifying, canceling, wiping clean, and transforming the financial realms of nations. Shemitah also just reached the New York Times bestseller list, placing it at 6th. Now get this, in only about a week after its release. It would wipe out a stock market boom fueled by debt as a consequence of the Federal Reserve's policy of quantitative easing, in which it has bought trillions of dollars of U.S. Treasury debt since the end of the George W. Bush administration. Now, WND News has repeatedly reported that a major stock market downward correction becomes more likely if interest rates rise as the Federal Reserve tapers QE borrowing, with a plan to end all Fed purchases of Treasury debt by the end of the year. And then it adds, the majority of the greatest point crashes in stock market history just happen to take place in a very small period of time that comes around once in 7 years, which also just happens to be on the same biblical calendar for manifesting the massive financial repercussions of the 7th year, Kahn warns. Khan advances his investigation by correlating a series of stock market charts dating back to the stock market collapse in 1973 under President Jimmy Carter with the biblical 7-year cycle, arguing it is more than coincidence. He concludes, and then we're going to leave this article here after I share this. There's a lot more, and you can follow the link I will leave in my article on Before It's News and go read the rest of it yourself. It says the greatest financial turning points, peaks, and long-term collapses of the past 40 years have taken place within the biblical year of the Shemitah, or its autumn wake. When there has been both a financial collapse and an economic recession, the period connecting their starting points has fallen within the biblical Shemitah 100% of the time. Okay, so not 99% or 98% or even 99.9%, but 100% of the time. That's huge, people. Thus, from the 40-year period beginning in 1973, every single one of the 5 greatest financial and economic peaks and collapses have taken place according to the set time of the Shemitah. Okay, according to Michael Snyder of the Economic Collapse website, it says the U.S. national debt has grown by more than $1 trillion just in the last 12 months. Now, he writes that the idea that the Obama administration has the budget deficit under control is a complete and total lie. According to the U.S. Treasury, the federal government has officially run a deficit of $589 billion for the first 11 months of fiscal year 2014. But this number is just for public consumption, and it relies on accounting tricks which massively understate how much debt is actually being accumulated. If you want to know what the real budget deficit is, all you have to do is go to a U.S. Treasury website, which calculates the U.S. national debt to the penny. On September 30th of 2013, last year, the U.S. national debt was sitting at, and you can see the number right here. As I write this, the U.S. national debt is sitting at, you can see there, huge. That means that the U.S. national debt has actually grown by more than $1 trillion in less than 12 months. We continue to wildly run up debt as if there is no tomorrow, and by doing so, we are destroying the future of this nation. Now, the chart that he has posted below shows an exponential growth of the U.S. national debt over the past several decades. And he states that anyone that would characterize this as under control is lying to you. And you can see this. It starts out in 1970. Okay, see how low it is? And look how it escalates over the period of years up until 2010. I mean, after 2010, it's off the charts. We're up to 18 million, okay, by 2010. And then compare that to the number here. More than $1 trillion. Okay. Now, there's a whole lot more information here. I'm going to touch on some points, and then I'm going to show you one more thing. It says, consider the following facts. The U.S. national debt has increased by more than $7 trillion since Barack Obama has been in the White House. By the time Obama's second term is over, we will have accumulated about as much new debt under his leadership than we did under all the other U.S. presidents in all of the U.S. history combined. Wow, that's huge. It says the U.S. national debt is now more than 5,000 times larger than it was when the Federal Reserve was first established in 1913. If the U.S. national debt was reduced to a stock of $1 bills, it would circle the earth at the quarter 45 times. Right now, the United States already has more government debt per capita than Greece, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, or Spain. In August, the average rate of interest on the government's marketable debt was 2.028%. In January of 2000, the average rate of interest on the government's marketable debt was 6.620%. If we got back to that level today, we would be paying well over $1 trillion a year just in interest on the national debt. At this point, the U.S. government has accumulated more than $200 trillion of unfunded liabilities that will need to be paid in future years. In other words, We have made more than $200 trillion worth of promises that we just don't have the money for yet. Thomas Jefferson once said that the principle of spending money to be paid by posterity under the name of funding is but swindling futurity on a large scale. Now, people, the statistics and the numbers don't lie, and that's what Michael Snyder is showing us here. Okay, so take that into account with what I just showed you over on WND. 3,000-year-old Bible mystery anticipates stock collapse, and then look at the facts for yourself. I mean, there's no question here that something tragic is going on with the economy, and it definitely looks like something is going to soon happen.
It keeps going. Well, here's the new development. Okay. For those who don't know, one of the harbingers, and you'll know it here, the seventh harbinger is called the Erez tree. It's the tree that was planted, Isaiah 9:10, we will plant cedars in their place. The sycamore has been struck down in the attack. We will plant cedars in their place. It's a symbol. Israel did it. The text saying, you're not going to humble us, God. We're coming back stronger than ever. This tree is a symbol. We're coming back stronger. Well, it happened in America. It happened after 9/11 that the same tree was planted in place of the fallen sycamore. For those who don't know, you'll know it. Yeah. And so they planted this. The seventh harbinger was this Erez tree, same tree, and it planted same thing. And it was a symbol. America's coming back stronger, this whole thing. And it was called the Tree of Hope. We're coming back. And now I've shared in some of the updates when I came back that in the Bible, one of the signs of the judgment of a nation is the withering away of a tree. And when you go down to ground zero, you would see a tree, no matter what they tried to do, that tree of hope was withering away. A symbol of a nation that is withering spiritually, even though it still stands. Another sign of judgment was the branch. God says, I will break off the branches of the tree. Another sign of national judgment. Go down there, you'll find the branches cut off of the tree.
Right.
But another sign of judgment is specifically, you'll find it throughout the scripture, is the destruction of the cedar tree. Now God says, because the cedar, in Hebrew, it means strength. And so if it's one thing for the sycamore to fall, but if the cedar tree is destroyed, then that means strength. That means you're really closer to judgment, because God literally says, I will bring judgment against the cedars of Lebanon, the cedar, all those things will be destroyed. You see it in Scripture again and again and again. Now, cedar in Hebrew is Erez tree. It's really Erez tree. That's what's at ground zero. Well, so here is what I'm sharing here now. Okay. Since I was last here, the seventh harbinger has fallen. The Erez tree has fallen. The seventh harbinger has been destroyed. The sign of national judgment, the destruction of the Erez tree, which it's even hinted in the harbinger that it's going to happen. It happened in the spring, and it happened on a very particular. They took it down because there was no way this thing, no matter what they did, nothing happened. They took down the tree. If you go there, you will not find it. They took it down. They took it down on the day where that night was a Hebrew holy day, was Passover.
Oh.
The Erez tree has fallen, which is a deeper sign than the striking of the sycamore, because this means strength. If this goes, you're closer to judgment. So here it was taken on, and let me give you more on that. They took it down that day, and the following day, they destroyed it. I mean, they wiped it out. They destroyed it. They ground it. They destroyed it. So they took it down. That day that they destroyed it was Passover. And that night was the first blood moon.
Oh, my land.
The harbinger fell the day before the blood moon and was destroyed the day of the blood moon.
Whoa.
And, people say, well, what happened? They didn't see things happening. Well, not that we have to, but that happened. The harbinger fell, and the harbinger was destroyed at the time of the blood moon, the beginning.
So you're saying this destruction of the cedar tree is a sign that judgment's near.
More than the sycamore. The sycamore is the cedar tree represents strength. It's the strong thing. It's the strong, high, lofty tree. Yes, it's a sign we are nearer. And on a Hebrew holy day.
So people are saying, well, I didn't notice anything happen during the blood moons.
Oh boy, we've heard
More
that
than they
said.
know happened during the blood moon.
Yeah.
This is the beginning.
And the harbinger and the blood moons came together, on that
I
day.
guarantee that most people were unaware of those details. Not about the tree being destroyed necessarily, but what he explains about it with the holiday, the Jewish holiday, and the blood moon. So, everybody, this is something we need to watch, prophetically speaking. We need to pay attention to, and we need to prepare. I have shown you the article on WND News, and I have shown you the facts and the numbers and the statistics and the chart from the Economic Collapse website by Michael Snyder. And now I have shown you this. There's no reason why any of you who have seen this and reviewed these materials should be caught unaware. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you.